There are 3 deliveries I need to tell you about. Not because of what happened to me during them, but because of what I found out had happened to someone else before I got there. Someone who worked the same routes I worked, carried the same bag I carried, and knocked on the same doors I knocked on. Someone who stopped showing up one day and left behind just enough for me to piece together why. These are those 3 stories. I almost didn't go into work that night. It was a Thursday. I had been on since 4 in the afternoon, and by 8 I was tired in that specific way that comes from too many stairs and not enough water, and the kind of low-grade stress that builds up across a shift without you noticing until it hits you all at once. I was thinking about going home early. I went back to the store to pick up my next batch of orders, and I stopped in the break room to get my water bottle from my locker. That's when I saw it. A delivery bag. Sitting on the bench in the corner of the break room. Not mine. I knew it wasn't mine because mine was on my shoulder. This one was just sitting there, upright, zipped closed, like someone had set it down carefully and intended to come back for it. I looked at the name tag clipped to the strap. The name on it was Danny. I stood there for a moment. Danny had been with the company for about 3 years before he stopped showing up. That was 2 weeks ago. No call, no text, no explanation. He was just there on a Wednesday and then not there on a Thursday and every Thursday after that. Management said he had quit. Some of the other drivers said he had just walked off mid-shift. Nobody knew for certain, and after the first week nobody talked about it much. I picked up the bag and unzipped it. Inside was a single completed delivery receipt. Folded once. Time-stamped 11:47 p.m. on the night Danny disappeared. The address at the top was on the east side of our zone, a residential street I had delivered to before. The customer's signature at the bottom was neat and unhurried, like someone who had taken their time signing it. I stood in the break room holding that receipt for longer than I should have. Then I checked my order queue for the night. The address on the receipt was my 4th stop. I told myself it was a coincidence. It was a residential street with multiple houses, and the specific house number on the receipt was not necessarily my delivery address. I checked my different house number, different customer name. I told myself that was the end of it. I told myself that until I was parked outside the 4th stop of my shift staring at the street and realizing that Danny's address and my address were directly across the road from each other. I sat in the car for a while. I made my delivery. In and out in under 2 minutes. The customer barely opened the door, handed me exact cash, took the food, gone. I walked back to my car. And I stood on the pavement for a moment looking across the road at the house from Danny's receipt. It was dark. All the windows dark. No car in the driveway. Nothing to see. I told myself that was fine. I told myself I was going to get in my car and drive away and not think about this anymore. Instead, I crossed the road. I don't fully know why. Some combination of the receipt and the bag and 2 weeks of nobody knowing where Danny was and the specific way that timestamp 11:47 p.m. had been sitting in the back of my mind since I found it. I crossed the road and I stood in front of the house and I looked at it. Ordinary house. Mid-terrace. Net curtains. Nothing unusual. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Waited. Nothing. I was about to leave when I noticed something on the doorstep. Right at the edge. Pushed to one side like it had been there for a while and someone had nudged it out of the way without moving it properly. A sauce packet. The kind that comes with certain orders. Foil, sealed, the restaurant logo printed on the front. I crouched down and looked at it without touching it. It was the restaurant Danny had been delivering from the night he disappeared. I recognized the logo because I had delivered from them dozens of times. He had been here. He had stood on this exact doorstep and the sauce packet had fallen and he had not picked it up because something had stopped him from picking it up. I stood up and stepped back from the door. That's when the net curtain in the front window moved. Not dramatically. Just a slight shift. The kind that happens when someone standing close to the window moves back quickly because they realize they have been seen. I walked back to my car. I did not run. I told myself very deliberately to walk normally, and I did. I got in. I locked the door. I drove away. I called the non-emergency line when I got home that night. I told them about the bag, the receipt, the address, the sauce packet, the curtain. They took a note and told me someone would follow up. 3 weeks later, Danny's family reported him as a missing person. I gave the police everything I had: the receipt, photographs of the bag, the address. They searched the house. They would not tell me what they found, only that the property had been vacated recently and that the investigation was ongoing. Danny has not been found. I still have the photograph I took of that sauce packet on his doorstep before I left that night. I have never shown it to anyone. I don't know why I keep it. I think some part of me feels like it is the last thing he left behind and someone should hold on to it until he comes back. I'm not sure he is coming back. That story kept me awake for weeks after it happened. But the next one is the one that changed how I think about this job permanently. Because in that story, it wasn't what I found that got to me. It was what someone told me. And what she told me is something I was never supposed to know. I want to tell you something about Elena before I tell you the rest of this story. I never met her properly. We spoke for maybe 12 minutes total across one doorstep. I never learned her last name. I have no way of contacting her now, and she has no way of contacting me. But I think about her more than I think about almost anyone I have met in the last 2 years. Because she trusted me with something she had been holding alone for a long time, and she trusted me because she thought I was someone else. My name is Kara. I am 26 and I have been doing food delivery for about 18 months. Last winter I covered a shift for a colleague named Priya who called in sick on a Monday afternoon and never came back. Management said she had personal issues to deal with. After 2 weeks they posted her shift permanently and nobody mentioned her again. I was assigned her regular Monday evening route because I was the closest available driver. It was a routine shift, 8 or 9 stops across a quiet residential area, nothing unusual, the kind of Monday evening where everything goes smoothly and you are home by 10. The 6th stop was a ground floor apartment in a low-rise block. The order was small: 1 portion of rice, 1 soup, a soft drink. The kind of order that belongs to someone eating alone. I knocked. The woman who answered was elderly. 70s, maybe older. Small and neat, with the careful movements of someone who has learned to be precise about how they use their energy. She was wearing reading glasses pushed up on her head, and she was smiling before she had fully opened the door, the smile of someone expecting a familiar face. She looked at me and the smile stayed exactly where it was. She could not see well. I understood that immediately, the way her eyes focused slightly past me rather than on me, the way she was orienting herself by sound and shape rather than detail. She saw a delivery driver at her door with her order, and she filled in the rest from memory. She called me Priya. I opened my mouth to correct her, and then something stopped me. Something about the specific warmth in her voice when she said the name. The way it came out, not as a greeting exactly, but as relief. Like she had been waiting. I handed her the food. She thanked me and asked how I was doing. I said fine, thank you. She asked if things had gotten any better. I said I was not sure what she meant. She said, "The thing you told me about last time. The thing that was worrying you." I said I did not remember exactly what I had said. She nodded slowly. She said Priya had seemed frightened the last time she came. That she had not said directly what was wrong, but that something about the route had been bothering her for weeks. That she had mentioned one address specifically, a house further along the same street, and said something felt wrong every time she delivered there. That the customer always knew things he should not have known. That he had said things on 2 separate occasions that made her feel like she was being watched between deliveries. She said Priya had told her she was thinking about requesting a different zone. She said after that Monday she never came back. I stood on that doorstep in the cold, and I listened to this woman tell me everything Priya had confided in her over 8 months of weekly deliveries. The small details of her life that she had shared on doorsteps over soup and rice. Her plans, her worries, her instincts about the job. Elena had held all of it carefully, like something valuable that had been left in her care. I asked her which house Priya had mentioned. She told me the number. It was 3 doors down from where I was standing. I looked down the street. A house with the lights on in the front room. Curtains not quite fully closed. A thin line of warm light visible between them. I asked Elena if anyone had come to speak to her about Priya. A manager, anyone from the company, anyone official. She said no. She said she had not known who to contact. She said she had kept ordering every Monday hoping the same driver would come back so she could ask if everything was all right. I told her I would look into it. I walked back to my car and I sat there for a long time looking at the house 3 doors down. The thin line of light between the curtains. I drove past it slowly on my way out of the street. As I passed the front window, the curtains shifted, just slightly, just enough, and for a fraction of a second I saw a face looking out, looking directly at my car. I reported everything Elena had told me to Priya's emergency contact through the company the following morning. I gave them the address she had mentioned. I told them what Elena had said about the customer knowing things he should not have known. I do not know what happened after that. The company does not share that kind of information with drivers. What I do know is that I have driven that route 4 more times since that night, and I have never once delivered to the house 3 doors down from Elena's apartment. It has never placed an order. Not once. And every time I drive past it, the curtains are always almost closed. Always that same thin line of light. Always just enough of a gap for someone standing close to the glass to see the street. I stopped taking Monday shifts 6 weeks ago. I think about Elena often. I hope she is all right. I hope she has someone who checks on her beyond a delivery driver knocking on her door once a week. And I think about the fact that for 8 months she was the only person Priya told any of this to. An elderly woman eating alone in a ground floor apartment who listened carefully and held everything safely and had no way of knowing it would matter. Elena knew something was wrong before anyone else did. The driver in the next story found out in a different way. Not through what someone told her. Through what someone sent her. And the timestamp on what she received is the detail I cannot stop thinking about, because it means he knew something was coming. And he still went. I need you to understand something about how delivery apps work before I tell you this story. When a driver accepts an order, the app logs their location at the moment of acceptance. When they arrive at the pickup, it logs that too. When they mark the delivery complete, it timestamps that. Every movement through the shift creates a data trail, a precise record of where the driver was and when. I know all of this because after what happened, I spent a long time going through every piece of data I could find, trying to understand the gap. The 11-minute gap between the last logged movement and the last known communication. 11 minutes is not a long time. It is long enough. My name is Joel. I am 29. I have been doing food delivery for 2 years and I am good at it. Fast, reliable, good with customers, good with the app. Last autumn, I was offered a senior driver position which came with additional responsibilities, including occasionally picking up incomplete deliveries left over from drivers who had ended their shifts mid-route. One evening I was assigned 3 incomplete deliveries from a driver named Sam who had ended his shift abruptly without explanation. This happened occasionally: personal emergencies, illness, equipment failure. Management was not concerned. I was not concerned. The 3rd delivery on the incomplete list was to an address on a quiet residential street on the far edge of the zone. The order had been collected from the restaurant but never delivered. It was still viable. The food was still within temperature window. I confirmed the delivery with the customer and headed over. It was a semi-detached house on an ordinary street. Small front garden, motion sensor light over the door, recycling bins by the gate. I parked, grabbed the order, walked up the path. Before I could knock, the door opened. A young woman, mid-20s, dark hair, the specific expression of someone who has been waiting but is surprised by who has arrived. She looked at me, really looked at me, and said, "Are you the replacement?" I said I was covering an incomplete delivery. Was she the customer? She said yes. Then she said she needed to show me something, and she held up her phone. On the screen was a photograph. It took me a moment to understand what I was looking at. Then it resolved. It was a photograph of her house. Her specific house. This house, this front garden, this door. Taken from the street at night, slightly angled upward toward the front window. Her house number clearly visible on the gate post in the foreground. I asked her where she got it. She said the previous driver sent it to her. I asked her which previous driver. She said she did not know his name. She said he had delivered to her a few times before and had always been friendly and ordinary. She said the night he sent the photograph he had completed the delivery normally, handed over the food, said goodnight, walked back to his car. She said she had gone inside, and a few minutes later her phone buzzed with a message from the delivery app's customer contact system. The message was just the photograph. No text. No explanation. She said she had replied asking what it meant and had never received a response. I asked her when this happened. She told me the date. It was the night Sam had ended his shift abruptly. I asked her what time the photograph had been sent. She turned the phone toward me and showed me the timestamp, 11:52 p.m. I stood on her doorstep and I felt something go very still inside me, because I had looked at Sam's shift data before I left the store. Routine. I always check the incomplete delivery notes. Sam's last logged app activity was at 11:41 p.m. His last GPS location ping was at 11:43 p.m. After that, nothing. No further app activity. No further location data. His shift simply ended in the middle of a route with no completion entry and no logout. He had sent that photograph at 11:52 p.m. 9 minutes after his last logged app activity. 9 minutes after he had effectively disappeared from the system. He had still had his phone. He had still been able to send a message. And what he had chosen to send, to a customer he barely knew, at a house he had just delivered to, was a photograph of her house taken from the street. I asked the young woman if she had reported it. She said she had tried to contact the delivery company but had not been able to reach anyone who took it seriously. She said she had been afraid to order delivery since it happened, but she had needed groceries and had convinced herself she was overreacting. She said she had been hoping the same driver would show up so she could ask him directly what he meant. I told her he would not be showing up. She went very quiet. I told her to contact the police and give them the photograph with the timestamp. I gave her the name of the officer I had spoken to about Danny, a different case, a different driver, but at this point I had a contact number. I told her to mention the timestamp specifically. She asked me what I thought it meant. I stood on her doorstep in the cold and I thought about it honestly. A driver who had delivered to her house. Who had sent a photograph of her house from the street 9 minutes after disappearing from the company's systems. Who had chosen that specific image, her house, her door, her house number visible, and sent it with no explanation to the one person who lived there. I think he saw something on that street. Something that frightened him enough that he killed his app, went dark, and in the 9 minutes before whatever happened next, he used the last communication available to him to document where he was. Not to call for help. Not to send a message anyone would understand. Just to point at a location and send it to the only person he could reach through the system he had available. He was trying to leave a record. He was trying to make sure someone knew where he had been. I drove away from that street slowly and carefully. I checked my mirrors the entire length of the road. I did not stop until I was back in a lit area with other people around me. I filed a full incident report with the company the next morning. I sent everything to the police. I have not covered an incomplete shift since that night, and I have told every driver I work with not to take them either. Sam has not been found. His last GPS ping sits on the company's system at a coordinate on a residential street. I have looked at that coordinate on a map more times than I can count. It is 4 houses down from the young woman's front door. 4 houses down from where he took that photograph. Whatever happened to him happened in the space between those 2 points. In 11 minutes. In the dark. On an ordinary street that looks exactly like every other street on the route. I have not been able to drive past a house with almost closed curtains since that night without slowing down just slightly. Just enough to check. 3 drivers. 3 routes. 3 sets of customers who were expecting someone who never came back. If these stories got under your skin the way they got under mine, drop a comment below. Tell me which one disturbed you the most. The bag left behind, the woman who thought she knew me, or the photograph sent from a street where someone disappeared. Hit subscribe if you want more stories like these. I post every week and every video goes deeper than the last. Turn on notifications so you never miss one. And the next time you open your door to a delivery driver, look at them properly. Because sometimes the person standing there with your food is carrying more than just your order. They are carrying the weight of every door they have knocked on before yours. And they are hoping, really hoping, that this one goes differently.